Today we're going to go through and do an additional fixes video for Survival Game Kit. At this point, I'm expecting that you've already gone through and done the original tutorial of merging Survival Game Kit and Advanced Locomotion System. And you've also done the fixes video. So this will take you to the point where I'm at right now with this video. So if you're opening up your project, you'll just have the standard Survival Game Kit level that's here. And everything should be exactly as I ended with the last video. I did revert back to that point, so I should be in the same page as you. But let's go over first what's not quite working at the end of my last fixes video. So the character is moving correctly whenever you're not holding a weapon. But let's go ahead and pick up a gun and let's start running. You'll notice that for some reason the character runs much faster than intended. And this is not what we want. We don't want it to where when you pick up a weapon, all of a sudden you have hyper speed. Also, when you hold down shift, it will actually slow down the character, because this is something that we're actually going to be fixing a little bit later in this video. ALS does not let you sprint when you're in the left foot forward mode. So we'll be correcting that as well. And also there's upper body shoulder movements. If you notice, when I'm running and then I stop, the shoulders keep moving for a second afterwards, and they shouldn't be doing that. They're continuing an animation that we don't want to see. Let's go ahead and let's jump through, and first let's fix the speed issue, because I think that's going to be one of the most important things that people will have noticed after that last fixes video. So first we want to go into the player inventory component. So on the upper left here, you can click content. And then let's just do a search for player inventory component. Should only be one. And then from the event graph, we're going to need to find the get player speed. So the easiest way to do that, and this is the upper left here, you can just go to search and type get player speed. Double click on that. You'll see a fairly large set of blueprints here that we're going to narrow down to a very few number of blueprints, because most of these things aren't actually wanted. Over here, this is the spread. So as you run, it will spread out the reticle that's on the screen. We want to keep that. Over here, setting the max walk speed and setting the client speed. These are all things that Survival Game Kit are doing that we don't want, because we're letting ALS handle the speed and all those settings. So let's go ahead and start by first disconnecting the inputs from the isValids. So right click on the output nodes of each of those and hit break. And we're going to start with this input and isValid. So if you'd like, you can disconnect from the end of this max walk speed that's being set, because we're going to keep that cast that's right after it. So first, right click on the output there, hit break, and then you can just drag all of that up. Now, if you try to move this box, notice it doesn't actually move all the content, and that's because we have this other comment box behind it. You're going to have to just drag over it, select it all, and then go ahead and move it out of the frame. You can delete it, but if you'd like to have it for future reference, or just in case something didn't work correctly, you can go ahead and keep it on the side there, but we're not going to end up using it. It's no longer being executed. Now this range weapon set min spread for state comment, we're going to want to bring that over, but first let's disconnect from the cast failed. So right click on that and break link. And then let's disconnect from the end of set min spread. We'll right click and break that link as well. That will then allow us to select all of the rest of these that are no longer in use, and we can just drag those out of the frame. Now bring the remaining code there, bring it closer. So we'll put it all in one nice little frame so it's one section, easy to read. And just shrink the comment box up around it. So currently, if the someone's going to this, it will go to inputs and then is valid, and it's not connected to anything. So what we want to do is connect from is valid to the cast for the master range weapon. And then that's we'll take care of it. We don't have to do anything else beyond that. So let's go ahead and take a look. Let's hit play. And then let's see if the player's speed has been corrected at all. Taking a second here to think for compiling. So as soon as it compiles, we'll jump in. Okay, so let's go ahead and pick up the weapon. Okay, so now you see, look at this. It's no longer running fast. It's actually going pretty slow. So right now I'm not holding down shift. So this is the equivalent of walk. Shoulders are kind of doing some weird things. We'll look at that later. And then when I hold down shift, it goes to a jog. So it's doing a jog and a walk when holding the weapon, but it's no longer doing that sprint that it was doing before. So that is much better. That's going to be closer to what we were wanting. Now, let's go ahead and go through first and make it so that you do have the ability to sprint, because perhaps you actually want the player running at the same speeds with the weapon as when they're not carrying a weapon. We will need to change. It's actually ALS, as I said before, that's limiting that function. So we'll go into the ALS-based character and fix this. So select Advanced Locomotion V3 and then Blueprints. And then inside of there, you'll see the ALS-based character. Let's go and open that up. I'm going to close the component that we were using before. And I'm going to do a save all and fix up redirectors just to make sure there's nothing left over. And inside of the ALS-based character, we want to go to the upper left, and we need to find the choose max walk speeds that are in here. And actually, that's not the very upper left. Let's do it in the My Blueprints area. So choose max. There we go. Choose max walk speed. And you can see, let's step through this logic that it's doing at the moment. We've got the choose max walk speed. And then based on the stance that you're currently in, so if you're standing, it goes up here. If you're crouching, it goes down here. But let's say you're standing. It then asks, are you aiming or are you just holding the rifle down at your hip and not right clicking is pretty much what aiming is. Now with us, because we are using the ALS part of aiming differently than the right click, whenever you hold a weapon, it goes to the ALS aiming, because all that means is that your left foot is forward. All the rest of the right click and the aiming is handled through the survival game kit. So what we want to do is make it so that whenever you're aiming, it doesn't limit you, because if you look right now, aiming is true. And then it goes up to, if you're walking or if you're running, always go to walk. And then if you're sprinting, go to running. So that's what's causing us to not have the speeds that we're wanting to have. So a quick fix for this, without having to redo these and set the nodes, because we don't want there to be a difference. So let's just drag from aiming true down to the same one that false is doing. And then let's go ahead and go in and do a quick run and see how this looks. So we'll pick up a weapon. Okay, so here is the kind of jog forward without shift being pressed, so it's not running. And this is what it was doing when you were holding down shift before. So now when I hold down shift, it actually will run. So this is how we want it. So here is without shift, there is with shift. So I think that is a lot better. That's closer to what people are wanting to see. You could always leave it the same if you don't want to, if you want people to actually move slower when holding a weapon. You're more than welcome to leave that as it is. Now let's take a look at the upper body movement issues that we're running into. To get here, we're going to actually have to go into the mannequin and MVP. So if you go to content and then just in the filters up top, you can type anim BP and then you'll see mannequin anim BP. Inside of here on the left side, go to anim graph. And then we're going to need to go to the state machine. And so this will be at the very beginning of all this logic. If you followed it through, it actually starts right here. And we have that under set locomotion. So open up this main state machine and then open up locomotion. Just so you know, what this does is whenever you're moving, locomotion pretty much is your default state that you're going into. If you do anything else, let's say you jump or you're falling, it will then check the state and say, okay, you are not grounded. So anything where your feet are not touching the ground, it's going to look at this not grounded. And that allows it to enter this transition. So your feet are no longer on the ground. Okay, let's go to the grounded conduit. And by default, it will jump to anything else. It goes straight through this one, but it does check all of these different outputs to see which one it can do. So if you're falling, it will go to land. If you're not grounded, but not falling, let's say you're jumping or something, it will jump up to here and work its way over to in air. So this will cause you to jump. This will be a falling animation. And then as soon as you're no longer falling, it works its way back down here and comes back to a point of being grounded. So go into locomotion and then locomotion once again. And then we want to go to left foot stop. Now, I had done something not quite right here because in this section, there is two different versions of this code. There's one where it's an idle animation, and there's one that's a moving animation for the upper body holding a weapon. So this is the moving version. And so when you're stopping with your left foot forward, which is when you're holding a weapon, it's actually doing an animation that lasts for a little bit. So that's not what we want to have. We want this to be a much shorter, no upper body movement. It is immediately stopping, and you don't want your shoulders to be doing the running motion. So what we can do is go with the not moving code here. So in not moving, click not moving state machine. And we want to do left foot idle. And we're going to pull this code from here because this is the code that will be more similar to what the lower body is doing. The lower body is no longer running, and you don't want to see that. So highlight all of that and hit Control-C or right-click and copy. And then keep clicking here to where you get to locomotion again. You can see I just clicked it after locomotion state, locomotion. And then let's go to left foot stop. What I'm going to do is I'm going to paste below. So I'm pasting all that code, which has the stopped version. And then I want to connect the end node here. But we need to take note that some of these things aren't the same. So we need to bring over the things that are actually the left foot stop animations. We need to copy that. So right click and copy. You'll see this is off of the holding item, ALS LF stop. Select both of those and hit copy. And then we want to paste a copy of it here below this new code that we set. And you can go ahead and delete those existing ones that are there and then drag that into false. So if you're not holding an item, it does the standard left foot stop animation. But if you are holding an item, it's going to go up here and it's going to check this. It's going to say, all right, blend per bone, you're holding an item. And then it's going to blend from the spine 01 up. So it'll just do those upper body animations. But we also need to do those animations up here. This is your base pose. So this is pretty much from the spine 01 down. What animation is it going to do? And we want to use the same animations. What I can do is actually bring this one over from the old code. I'm going to delete the animation sequence that's there. And this should be what we're wanting to see now. We can test it really quick, and then if it works correctly, I'll go ahead and delete this code up here. So to begin, what we're going to want to do is pick up a weapon. And then we're going to go through and just run and see if those shoulders continue to move. Okay, so we've got the weapon. We've stopped. All right, so you can see the shoulders are no longer moving after the character has stopped running. Yet the upper body is still doing what you would expect. It's holding the weapon correctly, not doing any kind of weird movements. So because that is working correctly, I'm going to go ahead and delete all this code up here. So this is all the existing code that was there. And now we have the new code, which is the equivalent of the idle, but with these left foot stops. All right, so another issue that you probably wouldn't have noticed, unless of course you are running multiplayer, is that the fall damage is not working correctly for all the players. So on a dedicated server, the first player would be having fall damage, but the second player would not be having fall damage. So I came up with a little fix for this. So let's go ahead and let's close all these and let's get back to the standard map. And then we need to open up the master character. So on the left, hit content, and then search in the filters, type in master character, and let's open that up. So I'm already pretty close to where we want to be, but I'm going to take you through how to get to this screen that I'm at right now. Let's go to the event graph. And then in the search here, just type is falling. And then you'll see an is falling section. Double click on that. And then here we have is fall damage enabled. It's checking that, yes. And then is it a server? And then it's going over. Well, we don't want this to happen because this isn't actually running on the clients anyways, or on the server. And so it's not operating on all the clients. We want this to run on clients. So go ahead and drag that over from is fall damage enabled all the way to the branch in the is character falling. And you can bring these closer together. You can leave that server has authority up there just as a kind of reminder that you did this. But this will make it so that if you have two players, it will have fall damage. Let's go ahead and test that out really quick. So what I'll do is let's do 2 players. I'm going to hit play here. Number of players 2. I'm going to check the run dedicated server. Let's go ahead and hit play. So just so you can see this, you can see that both players are up there. On this one, let's go ahead and go up the elevator and we'll jump over the edge. All right, so there was fall damage. Let's try the other one. And you'll notice that not having it to where the other player is taking damage at the same time, it's separating them properly. And this one, when we jump off the edge, should also take fall damage. Yep, there we go. So they're both taking fall damage. Undo 2 players in case they hit play here again. Okay, so we now have it to where both players are taking fall damage. And that would count if you have 3, 4, 5. It doesn't matter how many players you have. They should all correctly work. Now, I came up with a little bit better way. One thing I was getting a complaint about is how the right click to aim down sights was working before. And so this is something that is not a fix so much as it's just a different way of doing it. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do this. If you want to keep the existing right click to aim down sights code as it is, and you're happy with how it works, you're more than welcome to not do this part. I'll make it quick so that it's not a huge part of the video, but you're more than welcome to skip this part if you don't want to mess with that. But I think this is a more accurate way of doing fall damage on this. Oh, sorry, doing a right click aim down sights. So let's go ahead and go into the player inventory component. And then we want to create a macro. So where it says macros, I'm going to create by hitting the plus there, plus macro. I'm going to call this double click. And what we want to do is to pretty much detect when someone's double clicking. And then we're going to just say, yes, detect the certain amount of time, which is going to be a quarter of a second that they're double right clicking on. And then it will allow them to aim down sights, because before what it was doing is when you would right click and aim down sights, it would actually see, all right, you're already having the rifle up. Okay, now go ahead and aim down sights because you're already doing that. But it was very inconsistent. It didn't always work. You had to get the double click timing just right. So to begin with this, let's go ahead and right click, and we're going to choose local Boolean. And if you just right click and search for local Boolean, you'll see here, it allows you to drag off of that. You'll see variable, and then search for a sign. Now, we need to have inputs go into this. So a quick way to do this is just to drag from the exec pin to the left into inputs. And there you go. That created an execute exec input here automatically. Now we want to go to a sequence. So drag off of the right side of a sign and search for sequence. And go ahead and drag outputs off to the right a little bit. And then from sequence, under then 0, we want to do a gate. So drag off there and search for gate. And then the then 1, we want to drag to open. And now comes the point where we're going to actually set the amount of time that it's watching for the right click. So add pin, and then drag off of then 2 and do delay. And then we'll want to set that. I found that 0.25 works pretty well, but you can play with that if you want it more or less sensitive. And then from the completed, drag that to close. We want to leave start closed as is, but we want to make a then 3 because this is going to go to the output. So go ahead and from then 3, drag off to a branch. And what's going to set that branch is going to be this local Boolean. So go ahead and drag that into the condition. But we need to drag off of this exit and do an assign. And what we're assigning is this variable right here. So to keep this clean, I'm actually going to I'm going to double click on the line. See how that creates a reroute node here. I'm going to drag that up to variable. And then I'm just going to do a couple of things to cleanly bring it up and around. I'll drag off of this to here. There we go. So I'm just going to clean that up so not such a mess. And then we want to, for this value here, we need this to be checked. So go ahead and first, let's drag. See these true and falses? Go ahead and drag true into the output first. And you'll see that it makes true. And now I'm going to do the false, and it makes a false. But I want to rename them just so it's easier for people to know what's happening. I'm going to name it double click and single click. So here it will reroute what it's doing based on the double click and single click. So as you go into this, if you're double clicking, it'll do one thing, one set of code, take one path. If you're single clicking, it'll take another path. But you do need to check this box. Now that we have the output in there, it brought up this box for the value. You just need to check that. So this is doing a check of, have you clicked within a certain period of time? Yes, you've clicked twice, and then it will change this Boolean and signify that it was a double click. So this is a macro that now will allow us to change how the double right click works in Survival Game Kit. So we'll need to go back now to the player inventory component, but in event graph. So go ahead and hit compile and save on there. But we need to go into the enter aimed section. I'm going to compile. I'll save this. And then the upper left, search for enter aimed. Where we're going to want to actually be is we need to find where it's a branch from the camera. So remember camera mode, and then is first person player. In the middle here is where it's checking. Here's how it's doing it currently. If you're in the first person camera, then you're already aiming down the sights. That's by default. But if you're not, it's going to come down here and check for the right mouse output. And this is just, it works most of the time, but as I said, it doesn't always work. So we're going to replace this code. And so if you'd like, you can actually drag that up. And then I'm going to drag from false here to our new macro. So on the upper left, the macros, drag the macro out there. And then from false, drag that into the beginning of the macro. Now the double click, we want to go ahead and have it go up to the existing code, how it normally would, because after this, it puts it into first person camera. So this is what puts first person mode. But if you're single clicking, we don't want to go up and aim down sights and go to the first person mode. So from single click, we're just going to set a variable for ADS check and set it to false. So you're not aiming down sights. Up a little bit. Then I'll put a comment around it just to let people know what we did. So highlight all of that and hit C. And this is double right click detection. So compile and save. And then we'll go ahead and let's go into the game mode. And we will just take a look and see if it is doing a more accurate double right click. And hit play. And if your window's in front, just go and drag that up and then you can see it. So let's pick up a weapon and then I'll do some double right clicks. So it's now, even if I delay a little bit and not super fast, it's very consistent. So if there's one, there's two. 1, 2. Works every time now. So if you do this, it just will operate more of how people, I think, are expecting it to operate. So let's do one more thing. Now, this is something I posted as a fix to the beginning of, as the first comment on the very first video that we've done for merging the survival game kit. And this is something that I didn't notice before, but there's actually some code that's in the game mode that comes with the survival game kit. And on more current versions, so some of the updates he's done actually cause an issue with the HUD not being displayed. And I've been getting reports of this whenever we're using this ALS game mode. It's not going to take much because let's go ahead and search for this ALS game mode and open it up. Now, this is just a child blueprint of the base game mode that there is. The only thing that's unique about it is this mannequin character being selected. Now let's go ahead and take a look and let's see what the survival game kit one is doing. So BP survival game mode. Go ahead and select that one. You'll notice that it changed the default pawn, so the default character. Well, this is going to cause, first of all, it won't move because the inputs aren't right on it, but it's even change the character. That's not what we want. We want to pick the survival game mode, but we need it to drop down for default pawn class and then select mannequin character. Now this mannequin character is the one that we've been working with. It's a child blueprint of ALS-based character. And it has all the customizations as far as the character having this mesh and this color on the mesh. So this is the one that we do want to use. If you have done my merge video to where it doesn't have the mannequin character, you can choose the ALS-based character at this point. But let's take a look at what's actually happening in this survival game mode. So go ahead and double click. So if you click the little search there and double click on it, you'll notice that there's actually code that's being executed. So this is something that post log on, it's doing some things. So we do need this. There's probably something that wasn't working quite right when this wasn't being selected. So this is something that if you haven't done it at this point, you didn't see my first comment, you didn't do it in the very first video. Maybe you did this merge, the original merge, back a couple versions ago of Survival Game Kit. You may not have even noticed this, but make sure on the right hand side here, game mode, choose that survival game mode, choose the mannequin character, and everything else will operate as you expect, but it will just have that extra ability that it's supposed to be doing with Survival Game Kit. Well, hopefully you enjoyed. This is something that just mainly fixes this time, and plus a little bit of an extra feature, a better way of doing the double right click. But make sure if you have any questions, that maybe something doesn't make sense, that you come and join our Discord. The link to that's going to be in the description here. But it is a great place to go out and throughout the week, if you have questions of something you're doing, or maybe something isn't quite working right, that'd be the place to ask. I don't always see the YouTube comments that are below, and there you can send screenshots, and it's just a much easier back and forth conversation of being able to discuss and work through these problems. If you're just interested in development, that's a great place to hang out with the Discord as well. We talk about all kinds of different aspects of game development with animations and level design and just landscapes, everything that you can think of. It's a great place to hang out and join. Also, I have my Patreon if you'd like to support, help purchase future assets that I'll give tutorials on. That is a way that you can do from a $1 tier up as just a thank you. Maybe you got a benefit out of the video here. And just make sure you subscribe and like this, because if you want to see future videos and you want to see all the other things that I'm doing each and every week, this would be the place to go, and you'll get a notification whenever I upload a new video. So thank you very much for watching this, and I will see you all later.